On November 26, 1930, a front-page article was published in the Meriden Daily Journal of Canada titled, "Village of Death." This news sent a wave of fear throughout Canada, as an entire tribe in northern Canada had vanished overnight without a trace. Welcome to the videos of Unknown Mysteries. This story takes place in a remote area of northern Canada, at Angikuni Lake, which was once home to a small settlement of renowned Eskimo tribes, consisting of around 100 to 150 people. They made their living by fishing in the lake. This part of northern Canada is sparsely populated, with only a few thousand residents spread across millions of square kilometers, primarily due to the harsh environment. Besides the fish in Angikuni Lake, other wildlife in the surrounding areas also attracts many hunters. It was a cold, frigid day in November 1930 when a hunter named Joe LaBelle arrived in the area to hunt. He became so engrossed in his pursuit that he lost track of time and didn't realize when it had grown dark. He planned to spend the night with the Eskimo tribe by the shores of Lake Angikuni, as he had done many times before. The people of this tribe were well known for their hospitality towards visitors. So, Joe LaBelle packed his gear and made his way to the Eskimo tribe. It was a moonlit night, and an eerie silence enveloped the area. There were no signs of life, no people in sight and no sounds to be heard, just the echo of his own footsteps. Although Joe had made this journey before, something felt off this time. Typically, as he passed near the tribe, he would hear the familiar sounds of barking dogs from the settlement. But tonight, as he approached, there was only desolation and silence. Sensing something was wrong, Joe quickened his pace, thinking perhaps the village was simply asleep or had left temporarily. As he got closer, he could see the tents of the tribe from a distance and noticed smoke rising from them. However, upon nearing the settlement, he still heard no voices. When Joe finally entered the village, he was stunned by what he saw. There were neither people nor animals around. What perplexed him even more was that smoke was rising from some of the houses, suggesting someone might still be inside. He wandered into one tent, but it was empty. If anyone had witnessed this scene, they likely would have fled in fear. However, there was one detail that troubled Joe even more. Some homes had cooking utensils still out, with food that had burnt, indicating someone had been preparing dinner. This meant that someone had started cooking but had to leave suddenly. Even the sewing materials belonging to the women of the tribe were left behind, with needles still threaded. It seemed as though the villagers had been called away abruptly, but the question lingered: where had they gone? Joe LaBelle began searching the entire area of the tribe. He noticed that the dogs owned by both the tribe and the sailors had ropes tied around their necks, but they were dead from hunger. Although food was available right in front of them, there was no one around to feed the dogs. In one spot, he saw a grave being dug, and it appeared that it had only recently been started. Witnessing all this, Joe LaBelle's anxiety and fear grew immensely. He was deeply disturbed by the scene unfolding before him at night. People in this community always took their dogs along whenever they went anywhere, but this situation suggested that something unusual must have happened. It seemed there had been some kind of unfortunate incident that forced the people to leave suddenly, so abruptly that they had to abandon their dogs. They couldn't even put out food or maintain a fire. Joe could no longer bear the sight, and he rushed to the telegraph office. From there, he contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and explained his findings. When the police arrived at the village, everything Joe LaBelle had reported turned out to be true. The police suspected that someone might have attacked the area and killed all the tribe's members. However, if that had occurred, there would likely have been signs of bloodshed. In the absence of any blood evidence, the police immediately commenced a search operation for any outsiders. A peculiar observation emerged during this search operation that perhaps even Joe had not noticed before. The entire settlement was blanketed in snow, yet there were no traces of anyone else's footprints in it, only Joe LaBelle's. This indicated that if no one had entered the tribe except Joe, then no one had left, raising the question of where the tribespeople had gone. The lake was frozen over, and the boats were pulled up onto the ground. Since it was not the season for fishing, the boats had been stored on land. If the villagers had gone swimming or had dropped a bucket into the water, the ice would certainly have been broken or displaced in some way. During their investigation, the police learned that the people who had lived there had gone missing 8 days prior. There was no reason for the death of dogs by remaining hungry for 1 or 2 days, and the smoke rising from the houses indicated that it hadn't been long since the residents left. Smoke tends to linger long after the wood has burned out. The police had numerous questions but found no answers. After several months of searching, the case was eventually closed as unsolved, and over time, people began to forget about the incident. 50 years later, in 1984, writers Roger Bohr and Nigel Blundell published an article attempting to link the entire matter to alien beings. They recounted their encounter with a hunter and his 2 sons while exploring the area near Angikuni Lake. The hunter claimed to have frequently seen objects floating above the lake, which were of different shapes, and that they seemed to be heading towards the Eskimo tribes. Based on this account, they speculated that perhaps aliens had landed that night and taken all the tribe's people with them. However, these 2 writers had no concrete evidence of alien presence or any attack, leading most people to dismiss their theory. Following this, many began crafting various stories about the disappearance of the Eskimo tribe. Despite the fact that this mystery is nearing its 100th anniversary, no one has ever uncovered the answer to the question of what happened to the Angikuni Lake tribe. The disappearance of the Eskimo tribe remains a mystery till date.